to the Scouting Room Podcast with Dame and Dan. If you love NFL football, college football, and the NFL Draft, this podcast is for you. Touchdown! Dame and Dan will provide real analysis featuring analytics and film to back up their takes. Please sit down, grab your drink, and let's scout.
Welcome back to the Scouting Room NFL podcast with Dame and Dan. I'm Dame. I'm an NFL draft analyst with Bleacher Report and the host of the Locked On NFL Draft podcast. That's my guy, Dan, also an NFL draft analyst with Bleacher Report, and he covers he's with RGR Football, covering the Kansas City Chiefs. And guys, thank you so much for tapping in with us. We have a fun show. We're breaking down and ranking the NFC North. I was about to say West. NFC North quarterbacks. We did West last week. NFC North quarterbacks: Jared Goff, Caleb Williams, Jordan Love, and J.J. McCarthy. Let's start out with the guy who's been steady Eddie his entire career, and that's Jared Goff, man. Dan, a quarterback who has played, he's just been consistent, man. Since 2018, he's only had 2 seasons where he didn't throw for over 4,000 yards. That's insane consistency. That was the 2021 and 2020 season. And I think the only reason why he didn't throw, especially in 2020 with the Rams, he only played 15 games rather than the 16 or 17. And then 2021 was his first year with the Lions, he played 14 games. He threw for 3,179 yards. But coming off a season last year, 4,629 yards passing, 72.5% completion percentage. His completion percentage over expectation plus 4.3%. EPA was plus 144. Right, he was only sacked 31 times. He threw 37 touchdowns, 12 interceptions with a passer rating of 111.8. He averaged roughly 8.5 yards per attempt, which is above league average. Dan, this is again, steady, consistent, he's been balling in both situations he's been in. We appreciate some of the things we appreciate with Jared Goff. We talked about him, off air, the arm talent. He can drive the football. Every time I've comped Carson Beck to Jared Goff, that's the first rebuttal I get every time, is that Jared Goff can drive the ball into certain windows and people don't feel like Carson Beck can. Now, reports coming out of Miami, one of my guys, Alex Dono over at Locked On Hurricanes. Go check that out over on the Locked On Podcast Network. He said that I think he was at practice. He talked highly of the arm talent or the arm strength of what he saw from Carson Beck this year. So maybe Carson's arm got a little strong, a little more zip. Highly consistent production from Jared Goff. And then his accuracy and ball placement. Though, to me, Dan, when you say, okay, what's a quarterback's superpowers? When I look at Jared Goff, those are his superpowers. Being accurate and putting the ball where it needs to be, because Amon-Ra St. Brown's a fantastic receiver. He does a good job putting the ball in places where Amon-Ra could then become a runner shortly after receiving the football and making and securing that catch.
Yeah, when you look at what the Lions have done well over the last couple of seasons, not necessarily the outside the numbers, down the field stuff. It's accessing windows over the middle of the field into yards after catch and creating space via the scheme. And we've seen that with Jared Goff. And like you were talking about, I feel like there's so many people that just think he's like an average arm quarterback, but that's been very much disproven, I think, over the past couple of seasons, and honestly, Jared Goff gets into some of these modes where he's like, I can fit that in there. And you're like, no, buddy, you can't fit that in there because it's multiple defenders there. So it's trying to parse through what he's actually good at. So those are all the things that he does well. And when you have a system with a run game, with an offensive line, with the play after, the yards after catch stuff and the spacing and the timing that is in Detroit, you're going to find that success. And Jared Goff has done a fantastic job of being that guy. If you guys watched Quarterback, the season 2 of Quarterback, he was featured on that show. It's unfortunate that he's such a boring person because his play style kind of lends it to itself as well, where he's kind of that boring, steady Eddie. I'm going to play on timing. If it's not there, I'm going to check it down. Like, he's very good at getting through all of those things properly and accessing those parts of the field. So I really appreciate the command and the offense that he's been able to establish. And then what we know from him as a quarterback, those negatives right there, the lax mobility to create, effectiveness facing pressure, and the wild decisions, which I just mentioned. You see some of the times he's just like, yeah, I can do that, but you
He's
actually
got a little
can't.
gunslinger in him. He's got a little gunslinger in him.
And I love that. I love that because we've seen a couple of times where maybe he shouldn't have made a decision, but his arm strength and that gunslinger mentality makes it happen, right? We do see times where the gunslinger has that negative connotation to it. But I think it's about the confidence of the quarterback. And when you have an like the arm talent and the arm strength to be able to test some of these windows, NFL quarterbacks have to be able to do that. So it's about mitigating that. And I think that what Ben Johnson and the Detroit Lions have done with him over the past few seasons, they have mitigated some of that. But you do see at times it just gets in there. And again, you're going to have some games like that, and that's fine. We get into the lack of mobility in today's game, today's NFL. Even with an offensive line like the Detroit Lions, you have to have some kind of creative aspect to your game. I think that he does create a little bit with his arm, just a little bit, but he's not the most elastic armed quarterback. He can't create those underneath, some of the submarine type throws. Like there's a play from one of the quarterbacks from Wyoming. I posted it on Twitter not too long ago. I actually sent it to you. But he's running out to his left, and he can kind of bend his arm down and around and hit a receiver in stride who's also moving right to left while he's throwing from left to right. Like, it's a crazy thing to do. Jared Goff can't do some of those things, and he has to win more with his brain and what he sees pre and post snap than what he can with the limitations that his arm creates. But this is the guy who's a top 10, 12 quarterback in the NFL, and he's going to be for as long as I think that he's in this realm. And we're going to find out what the new offensive coordinator does with the weapons around him, something that we were just briefly talking about before the show.
No, 100%. And I think that's going to be the big thing for me with Goff is the what he does under pressure. Right? He threw 12 interceptions last year. 6 of those came under pressure. When he was pressure, with no pressure, guys, his passer rating was 120.3. When he faced pressure, it dropped to 86.5. Okay, his completion percentage went from nearly 80% with no pressure to 54.4%. Like, it's a clear drop off when he faces pressure. And to me, we always talk about with quarterbacks, trucks or trailers. And I don't want Detroit Lions fans to take this as a knock on Jared Goff, because yes, the numbers are outstanding. We usually look at the raw box score of how many yards he's thrown. He's back 3 straight years of 29 plus touchdowns since 2022. Yeah. You know what I mean? He's been consistently productive. My thing is when it does get down to those tight moments. Let's go back. Was it 2 playoffs ago on the road in San Fran, a game that you really should have won? Right, Brock Purdy gets gifted with the interception that bounced off the face of the DB right into, I think, Brandon Ayuk's hands for a big explosive play. And I'm like, what is going on in this game? Whenever we tweet out this game is drunk, that game had way too many cocktails. You know what I mean? That game was it's way too many. It's like me in Indianapolis off of too many Long Island iced teas. You know what I mean? It's just completely off the rails. And I just look at that situation and I'm like, man, but it was that game where those big moments, you want to see Jared Goff step up and be the truck sometimes. And I don't see that enough in those big, high pressurized moments against the Washington Commanders, right? In the playoffs. Yes, your defense was ravaged by injuries, but like Jared Goff had 3 turnovers in that game. Against a rookie quarterback who is lighting it up in your house, styling and profiling like Ric Flair. You know what I mean? Like, you have to stop the bleeding. Matter of fact, it not even stop the bleeding. At times, it felt like Jared Goff was the one cutting. Like, he was the one causing the bleeding. And it was just like, you can't turn it over right now. Your defense can't handle that right now, Jared. So I think that's going to be a big thing for me, is that he's right now, I would say, the top quarterback in this division because he's the most consistent guy. You know what the expectations should be for Jared Goff the start of every season, Dan. 4,000 plus yards, 30 to 30 plus touchdowns. Yeah, he's probably going to hover anywhere between 7 to 13 interceptions, which has kind of been his. He only had 1 year of 16, and that was like 2019. You know what I mean? Like outside of that, he protected the ball on a pretty solid rate. You know what to expect with him. Some of the other guys are more like wild cards. Okay, so like yeah, you're more upside trying to figure that out, but you know what you're getting with Jared Goff. It's just in these big moments, I don't know if you're going to have the run that you had last year, even with people coming back healthy in 2025. Everybody else has gotten better for the most part. Some teams
Yeah.
can't speak to it.
It's an interesting conversation about what a quarterback needs to be able to be, right? And in those big moment games, I think specifically it wasn't just Jared Goff. He felt a lot of pressure that he had to be the offense. He had to make things happen. Let's not forget Ben Johnson let Jamison Williams throw a pass in that game. Let's not forget those things happened
Yeah,
as well. So it wasn't
that's
just
true.
Jared Goff. He was like, look, we can't have Jamison Williams throwing a pass, right? Like that's in a game like that where your defense, like you said, can't handle a turnover. That is one of the
Yeah, you
worst
can't do it.
decisions that you can make. If you're up 3 touchdowns, you know what, Jamison? Go ahead and let one loose.
Right.
Speaking of Jamison Williams, you had talking before the show about a quote from him about the new offensive coordinator, speaking about how these wide receivers now are going to be allowed to play a little bit more freely.
Mm-hmm.
To that point, Ben Johnson, even with some of his, we're going to get to more of that with the Chicago Bears, but you can see the way he's running the practices. He wants things done a certain way. He wants you to be in a right spot. He wants you to be in this specific spot. Why do you think he wants that to be just like that for a Jared Goff like quarterback? He might have a little bit more leniency with Caleb Williams, which again, we'll get to. But when you're playing quarterback for the Detroit Lions as Jared Goff and you can't create outside the pocket, and I'm not okay. There are going to be some times where he does get out of the pocket. Fine.
Yeah.
Everyone's going to be like, well, there's this play. Yes, fine. The vast majority of the time, like you pointed to, that the pressure numbers tell you when he is under pressure, it's not good. It's
No.
50% of the time it ends up incompletion, turnover, stuff like that. So when you have to rely on pocket movement, and again, he's grown inside the pocket while he's been in Detroit. He's made little micro movements to create space for himself, which is what you have to do when you don't have that athleticism. But you have to rely on receivers being where they're asked to be at this specific time, at this specific part of the field. With more freedom, that's one of the things about the Kansas City Chiefs that drives people like myself crazy when there's so much learning the wide receiver has to do. When you're told exactly where to be every single time, fine. There's not much room for leniency, but there's so many different route options based off the coverage, based off the leverage. When you can kind of ad lib during the route because you're reading out what's happening, you're going to have more freedom as a receiver, like a quarterback does, to see what's happening in the play itself. So Jamison Williams talking about how these receivers now are going to be allowed to kind of make some ad libs on what they're reading from the defense. Jared's going to have to be able to also impart that onto what he's seeing and what he's doing and what the receiver
Yeah.
is doing. So early on, we might see some struggles from Jared. You might see some throws go left. You might see some throws go right, where the ball placement is typically one of his big strengths. He might have some time to really ease that out throughout the season as he gets more used to this offensive style. But again, like you said, I think that I agree with you. He's the number one quarterback in this division because of the consistency, because of what he's shown. And he is still a very, very good NFL quarterback.
Yeah.
Like that's not parse words here. Like he's a very good quarterback.
If he
There's
hit the
just
if
some
he hit the free
limitations.
agent market, he's gonna have a ton of suitors because you know he can
Absolutely.
start and get you to the promised
For
land.
tons
You
of
know
these,
he can do that.
yeah, tons of these teams. There's tons of them that would love to have Jared Goff as their quarterback. So he's done a great job. I'm really excited to see what this offense looks like in 2025.
100%. And you know, another offense that we're excited to see is down in Green. Well, I'm in the South, up in Green Bay, Wisconsin, and it's with Jordan Love, man, and a guy that has all the tools in the world: the mobility, the arm strength, the arm talent. He's got the size, and I'm gonna tell you right now, I will beat my chest and pat myself on the back. I've been a Jared Love guy since he was at Utah State. You know, I've been a Jared Love guy since then, and mainly
Jordan.
because Jordan Love. Sorry, Jesus, Jordan Love, because I'm high on I'm a big ceiling traits type
Mhm.
of guy
Yeah.
for my quarterback. Like We did the NFC South, and we talked about Bryson. And we did the NFC West, talked about Brock Purdy. Gave both of those guys their flowers for the good things they do well. They just aren't my style quarterbacks. I want guys who do have the arm talent, the athleticism, the strength to be able to make things happen. Like, there's a phrase I like to write down is when you see quarterbacks do those things, it's like he just made the right thing out of everything going wrong. Like, he made the wrong things right. And if you can do that physically, like I'm there. Now, you do have to have the mental aptitude. You got to be able to be accurate, anticipate windows, stuff like that. But that stuff also comes with time and reps, where no matter how you can take 3 million reps throwing the football, play 3 million games. Your arm isn't getting stronger, things like that. But with Jordan Love, it's not really a worry. You know, he has one of the better arms in the league, and you talk about just flexibility. Like, this is a guy that I remember when he got paid, it was such a talking point at first. I think he was getting ready to be the starter, and they may have tweaked something with his contract, and people were like, "Wait a minute, he hasn't done anything to earn that." And I'm like, I think they're setting themselves up. So if he does do something, right, that was about headed to the 2023 season. If he does go out here and play well, we don't have to, like, we're good. We don't have to we don't have to worry about you hitting free agency, because I believe that was because he got drafted. He was drafted in 2020. So it was 2020 on the bench, 2021 on the bench, played 4 games in 2022 basically, but still on the bench. So that was going into that 4th year, the 5th year, all that type of stuff. They had to figure out contractual logistics. He's come off a season last year, 15 games played, 3,389 passing yards, 25 passing touchdowns, 11 interceptions, passer rating of 96.7, average 8 yards per attempt. Completion percentage was 63.1%. Completion percentage over expectation, negative 1.2%. But his EPA was plus 32.3. Right? So he was only sacked 14 times. And 14 times per NFL Pro, to be sacked 14 times in 15 games played is kind of crazy, Dan, when you really think about it. It's just kind of nuts to be like, man, like I got sacked less than once a game, right? So when you look at the pros and everything, the plus marks on his profile, easy arm talent, easy arm strength. There's not a throw in the book that Jordan Love can't make. Oh, man, still thinking about Jared Goff. Sorry about that. But no, there's not a throw in the book that Jordan Love can't make. His ability to anticipate out-breaking routes is just up there in the league amongst some of the best. Like, he sees it well. He throws it early. He gets it out there. And, we watched the Hall of Fame game and everything, and we saw Brandon Allen throw a pick, nearly a pick 6 on the outbreaker. Yeah. Because he doesn't have you can't be late. Right? If you don't have you don't want to be late, period, but you can't be late with a regular or average arm. Jordan Love's type of quarterback, he could be late because he still has the velocity, the RPMs, the zip, and everything on those passes, and then he has the pocket mobility and creativity. Dan, I think for him, and I think everybody has to understand that last year he got hurt in that that game in Mexico against the Eagles.
Yeah, the first opening game against the Eagles. Yeah,
turf. The NFL has to stop doing that. Like, make sure the turf is good. He messed up his knee. He wasn't, I think Malik Willis came in, played, and I think the way Malik Willis played kind of almost rushed Jordan Love back, because Malik Willis looked pretty good and complimentary to that offense. And I was like, I wonder if that kind of sped up Jordan Love. Like, I got to get back out there. And I was like, man, I would have preferred him to just let it heal a little bit longer than trying to rush back, because he just wasn't the same guy. That we're accustomed to see, because he threw 32 touchdowns in 2023. Yeah. He looked vastly better. So, talented dude. And I would say this is a division overall that, Jared Goff is at the top, but there's multiple guys that could take that spot from him. And Jordan Love's one of them.
I think that Jordan Love would be like my 1B for this, because at the highs, we're talking about a guy who's not just better than Jordan Goff. I just did it. Here we are, messing up names. All right, Jared Goff. He's not just better than Jared Goff, but he offers more upside to compete with the best in the NFL
Yeah.
because of the arm elasticity, because of the way he makes guys miss in the pocket. And to your point about sacks, he took 14 on 139 pressures. Last year, he had 30 sacks at 188 pressures. So, and the time to throw this past year was 2.88, which was faster, or excuse me, longer than last year at 2.77. So he was holding onto the football a little bit more. And that's where the Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde stuff comes in for Jordan Love. It is, oh, I can do it. I can make this guy miss in the pocket. I can go find space over there. Then I'll get my eyes downfield. I'll find somebody. He does that a lot. And because he feels like he maybe needs to, or he has to, or wants to. I don't know. Because what we've seen from Jordan Love to this point is someone who is still trying to be reined in. Like, I think that when you saw Malik Willis come in there, the offense was completely different. It was just so much different. It was far more run based. Obviously, they're going to run more with Malik Willis, but it looked like he took to that far better than Jordan Love did. And that's where you see the dynamic of, oh, well, he's listening to the coach. And sometimes I probably don't listen to the coach and I need to do that better. But when you are out there and you're hurt, you're not going to be at your best. And Jordan Love wasn't at his best last year, regardless of the injury. I think that he still felt some of the need to hit the guys downfield. Now, let's not take away the fact that Dontavian Wicks and everybody dropped so many passes from Jordan Love that it made it worse. We all talk about how they did a great job of just drafting a bunch of receivers, 2 tight ends a few years ago, and revamping this offense. They don't have a true number 1 receiver. They don't. They have a couple of 2s and a 3 and some guys that have upside. I actually really liked Romeo Doubs coming out of Nevada. I liked him. I'm like, this is a guy who can be, he's kind of like their de facto number 1 receiver. And I'm not here to crush on Matthew Golden. I don't think he's number 1 either. I think he's a good 2. So you fill out an offense that's full of 2s and 3s and tight ends. I think Tucker Kraft is great. I love them coming out of SDSU. But again, we're talking about Jordan Love having to do everything else for these guys too. He puts the ball on the money, but he can't make them catch the football. But getting to, again, back to the point on Jordan Love, the pressure stuff. When you have a great offensive line in front of you, I think he believes sometimes he's not being pressured when he is. And that comes into what happens when pressure hits you. He only threw for 727 yards last year against pressure. 121 attempts, 53 completions for 727 yards. His yards per average dropped drastically. Yards per attempt, from 8.8 to 6 yards per attempt when he's under pressure. The eyes for Jordan Love come down immediately when he's under pressure, which contributes to the interceptions. 5 touchdowns for 5 interceptions when he's under pressure. So we have to remember that while Jordan Love is an extremely talented quarterback, this was one of the trepidations for me about drafting him in the first round. And I had no problem sitting him. Obviously, you want to pair him, but Aaron Rodgers didn't want to help him out at all. Very obviously didn't want to do that because he went and won 2 MVP awards and said, hey, guys, guess what? I don't really care.
The first round receiver, we're taking a quarterback in round 1. It's like, oh, okay, I guess I bet you I won't help this guy.
Yeah. And that's kind of we've seen the dynamicism of Aaron Rodgers kind of just completely dip, and he's not someone that you want to really be around or learn from anymore. But even just not just pressure, but against the blitz, he added 56.2 points. At the EPA, expected points added per play, 56.2 versus no blitz, negative 23.9 against the blitz. Completion percentage dropped 61. A lot of guys, when they're seeing the blitz, right? We talked about Jared Goff, great against the blitz, 70% completion percentage. Brock Purdy, great against the blitz. Jared Goff is not good against the blitz. Like I said, when he gets pressured, his eyes come down. When you can't find that space, and the reason football IQ was up there because he doesn't have the mental reps yet to see all the different things that happen post snap, to be able to identify some of those spots in the defense where they're coming from. A lot of times you say you beat the blitz by throwing at the blitz, right? You see where the blitz is coming from, you throw into the space where the blitz is evacuating, right? And Jordan Love hasn't been able to do that consistently yet. So when in the second point, they're lower body mechanics because he's oftentimes falling away from everything. He thinks that he can just go off his back foot. He can kind of fade away jumper, which takes away some of the great arms, the easy arm strength that he has, and forces incompletions or interceptions. So I want Jordan Love to be the best quarterback in this division this year. I think he can be. The consistency has to get better.
Yeah, it has to take that step forward, because if it doesn't, you just put yourself in behind the eight ball in a very competitive division. We just talked about Jared Goff and the Detroit Lions, who are the kings of the North, essentially, in your division, right? Like, they're the kings of the
He's
North.
got a new name now.
Right. So like
Jared Love.
both of them, you know what I mean? So we're just mixing the quarterbacks. Like, man, if I can get the best out of Jordan Love and put it with Jared Goff, I can get, Jared
Right.
Love. If I get the I get Jordan Goff. It was like, man, like, that's a great quarterback. Those two
That is the
great
best
quarterbacks
quarterback in the NFL,
in
right
the
there.
NFL, man. Anticipation, accuracy, all that, mobility, arm strength. What can't you do, right? So I think with Jordan, man, he's got to, because, like, to your point, just to see how different he was under pressure as well. And to your point about the, like, bringing the eyes down, for why that's such an important negative. You can't read the defense if your eyes are on the rush. That's why pocket presence, like, when you watch the greats that have now gone, right? They're retired, the Bradys, the Brees, the Mannings, those guys, that older model of pocket passer. One thing they mastered was pocket movement. Whereas, like, okay, I know where my tackles are. I can feel. They understood the clock, the internal clock. And all right, because it's like they knew, like, I can hold the ball just a little bit. Because I hear it starting to go off, but it's not loud yet. So I still got a little time. And then the volume starts to get louder and increase as that defender is starting to close in. Then I gotta get the ball out, right? They don't take that hit, don't take that sack. And you have these guys that are mobile, that have the arm talent, things like that. They just feel, I can muscle. Sometimes I can't muscle the throw, despite being contacted by a defensive end, things like that. I think with Jordan Love, he has all the upside in the world. Happy that he's going to be healthy this year. Their receiving room, I think what you want. Me and you've talked about Matthew Golden. I really like Matthew Golden. I think he could be a 1, but not as like the traditional X. He'll have to be a 1 out of the Z spot for me. And which it all depends on how you design your offense, things like that. We watched Julian Edelman be a 1 and he was a slot. We've seen it. Just got to depend on how you want to handle it. But the key for them is going to be, figuring out the same way we talk about finding that top 5 on the offensive line. Now it's finding your top 4 receivers and who is going. When you go 10 personnel, when you go 11 personnel, you need your top 3. Yeah. Who's in that top 3? Christian Watson. Like you talked about Romeo Doubs, I like Romeo Doubs too. Christian Watson was my guy coming out. The 6'3", 6'4", 200-plus pound frame, elite speed, ball skills, leaping ability, all of it was there, and then he was a growing and developing route runner. The problem was he was always snake bitten by injuries. It always caught him, and I'm like, man, if you just give him a 2-year run of being injury bug free, this young man might shock a lot of people what you can see from him with natural development. That I think their top 4 whenever he returns should be Golden, Dobbs, Watson when healthy, and Jaden Reed. Dontavian Wicks drops the ball too much. The route running is there. The release package is there. Separating is not a problem. It's reeling in the pass, which is crazy because he made some acrobatic, tough grabs when he was at Virginia in college. And he drops the easy ones in the NFL. That slant, that end breaker for first down, and it's timely drops too. So finding that top 4, running the ball with Josh Jacobs and everything. I'm not sure what's going on with Luke Musgrave. I think he's still been battling injury since he got in the league. Tucker Kraft has taken over that tight end 1 spot. Get Tucker Kraft going. If they could get a consistent, complimentary, competent, just non-turnover, like low turnover quarterback. Again, 11 turnovers isn't crazy. Jared Goff threw for 12 last year, and Jordan Love has thrown for 11 back-to-back seasons, right? So, hey, if you're living in the 10-11, I'm not mad at you. But let's get those touchdowns back up to 30-plus, and just protect the football and make the right decisions. Because when he does that, he could be a very, very difficult quarterback, and this offense could be so potent going forward in the 2025. Then a guy that was selected first overall last year And you talked about his head coach who with the Chicago Bears, Caleb Williams, and man, I don't know, is there anybody with more pressure, just like resting on their shoulders heading into their second year in the league? Some may say it's Jaden Daniels, right? Some may say it's Jaden Daniels after what he did and trying to avoid the CJ Stroud sophomore slump and things like that. But when I look at Caleb and what he did last year, 3,541 yards passing, 20 passing touchdowns, 6 interceptions, pass rating of 87.8, his yards per attempt. And guys, this is not pressure. This is just his yards per attempt.
Yeah.
6.3, right? 6.3 yards per attempt. Completion percentage of 62.5. Completion percentage over expectation, negative 1.4%. His EPA was a negative 69.4. He was sacked first. He was pressured 260 times. He was sacked 68 times. He was sacked over 38% of his dropbacks as a rookie. So when you hear those numbers, please take into account what this young man dealt with. And I don't know why the Chicago Bears consistently do this with quarterbacks. Same thing for Justin Fields. Came in with a lame duck coaching staff that you knew you were going to fire. Instead of just firing him and finding somebody in the offseason, nope, you let him waste that young man's rookie year. Did the same thing with Caleb Williams. So when I look at Caleb, I see a player that we all know was so exciting coming out of USC. And coming out of, with training camp so far, we'll talk more training camp stuff next week, guys. Don't worry. Training camp, maybe some preseason previews, stuff like that. But a big thing with for this summer is Caleb Williams said that he's feeling better and feeling good in this offense. Feels like he's picking it up, Dan, and that's what you really want to hear from a quarterback. Because as you just talked about, Ben Johnson's got a little bit of a control situation where he's like, "Hey, I want this. I want it buttoned up. I want every I dotted, every T crossed. I want this, and this." It's a lot to ask. But if you believe in the player, you have that relationship. I don't care if you have that militant style, long as you're personable with your players to where you can talk with them. They feel comfortable coming to you. It's a normal conversation. It's not like Bill Belichick where it was dictatorship, my way or the highway type of situation, right? We just saw Luther Burden come off a day earlier this week with a good practice and everything. Ben Johnson doesn't mince his words, but I think that he's better with his players than people give him credit for behind closed doors, and that's really what matters more than anything. So Caleb Williams, man, big year coming up for him in 2025.
I gotta get something off my chest because I'm tired of teams consistently doing this to NFL quarterbacks. If you are in a situation where your coach is on a hot seat and you have the number 1 overall pick, you have a top 10 pick, you have a top 5 pick, I don't care, and you're going to be drafting a quarterback, fire that coach every time. Every single time. You are going to put your quarterback at a disadvantage because of what we have seen multiple times, time and time again, where you fire them, their entire offensive system is gone. They have to learn something new the next year. And not only that, they are behind the 8 ball because the developmental process that you need in that rookie season, fundamentally, the foundation of building that young quarterback is destroyed. It's destroyed. It's completely gone. So Caleb Williams, Justin Fields, there's a ton of we can talk about
Trubisky,
Trubisky, Zach, going back to Sam Darnold and Geno Smith, all of these guys, Zach Wilson. There are countless stories about teams putting young quarterbacks in situations where they're not giving them even their best in a bad situation. It's fine I don't care if it's a bad situation. You're the number 1 pick. You're going to a bad team. They were bad last year. Clean house. Yep. Let a new staff at least introduce a new system. You give him 3 years in this system. Right. Okay, if it doesn't work, fine. But 1 year and scrap, and this is his 3rd offensive coordinator already. He's been in the league not even a full year.
Why are we playing musical chairs with play callers?
I know.
Going into year 2, he's going to his 3rd offense or system and coaching directives that's different than the initial, man. So yeah, let's just pull up the scouting report. Let's go up the things that we saw on film from last year for Caleb Williams. I call him a pocket magician.
Yeah, that's fair.
I don't know, his feel and presence in the pocket for rushers. Yes, guys, I know we just talked about 68 sacks. That's not the point. All right, you can't out magician everybody. Like you just can't get away from everyone. Okay, but when he feels it and he senses it. Like I was in the Twitter Spaces with the Falcon Atlanta Falcons fan base. Got some friends over there. Asked me to come in, talk some ball with them and everything a couple nights ago. And I did that. And there was a clip of, I remember I found the clip that I had of Braylon Trice at Washington, who's one of their edge rushers they drafted last year. And he had a great rep against USC's left tackle, got to Caleb Williams, and could not get the sack. And
Yep.
I was just like, that's just Caleb. You know what I mean? Like, you just shrug your shoulders and like, listen, Braylon, you did everything right. Caleb just turned the wrong into the right for himself. You know what I mean? So he's a pocket magician. The arm strength, talent, and flexibility are outstanding. And we talk about the feel and the presence in the pocket. I love the fact of like this guy is like, he makes those video game throws look normal.
Yeah.
The ones that you like, matter of fact, it's not even a Madden or a CFB 25 or 26. It's the NFL street throws. Yes, we aged ourselves a little bit, guys. The NFL street, if you don't know, go check it out. Go look it up. It was a fantastic game, fun game. But where you could just leap off one foot and throw it across your body or throw it down the field and things like that. You see him roll into his left, get his shoulder square. When you talked about Jared Goff not having the flexibility to change the arm angles and the slots, he got more arm slots than Vegas, man. Like he can absolutely just get the ball from every different angle and quadrant, and it's like, okay, I got a free runner. Let me dip it here. Let me go 3/4. Let me go over the top. Let me bring it down all the way low, like in limbo throw. Like he can do those different things. And I'm like, man, he's so talented with that. So like the physical raw tools were always there. And honestly, I feel like we talked about when we go back to the coaching standpoint, I feel like Ben Johnson was their pick to be the head coach. He just did not come out in last year's coaching cycle. He stayed for one more year for 2024 with the Detroit Lions. I think trying to aim to see if they can make get to the Super Bowl, that type of thing. But if he came out, then you would have had him learning from out the jump what is expected for this offense. And I'm excited for Caleb with Colston Loveland, with Roma Dunze in year 2, who we talked about part of the beginning of the summer, back in like May or whatever. Go check the archives. DJ Moore, who I like a lot. Saw him a lot in Carolina. Talented receiver. And then still got Cole Kmet. Got DeAndre Swift. This offensive line has been reshaped. They got to figure out the left tackle spot, which is a battle going on right now. Keep your eyes on Ozzie Trapilo, Boston College offensive tackle. I think he's probably got the leg up in that situation for what I read. So, yeah, the things that Caleb does well, this offense, I think, is going to inflate that and elevate that. And I think Ben Johnson is going to call plays that's going to allow him to be him and not so much – because I think to your point with Jared Goff is like, hey, we kind of got to do this, run it this way because this is how you succeed. This is how you excel. Mm-hmm. When you got a guy like Caleb where it's like, man, just let me play. Like, yeah, I'm going to play structured, but just let me play. I'm excited to see what that looks like this year.
I think that last point you made is the biggest thing. Young quarterbacks need structure. Yes, the talent has always been there for Caleb Williams. The talent's there for a lot of these guys. The problem is the NFL game is fast. It's faster than anything they've ever witnessed. And when you see, okay, defenses are changing, they're doing all this, what happens when you put a young quarterback in a situation where not only is he being asked to read out defenses that are faster than he's ever seen, doing things differently than college football's ever seen, but the offensive line is awful and you don't help him out with any kind of play action game. To that point, last year, the Chicago Bears ran 94 plays of play action the entire season, and he had 468 plays with straight dropbacks. 468. That is not a wrong number.
That is insane to even think about, that you did not set your quarterback up for success with some play action.
It's not even, there was no attempt to do it. There was no real attempt. You can't tell me that 1 out of every 5 plays you run on the season, okay, fine, we'll just kind of throw one in there. I don't care what your run game looks like. We have advanced data that showcases you don't need to have a great run game to effectively run play action.
Can I
You have to
piggyback
have
off of that
structure.
real quick? Dan,
Go
to
for
your
it.
point, the Lions, Jared Goff last year under Ben Johnson, 214 dropbacks off play action. He threw 202 passes off play action. You said that Caleb threw how many? Was it 98?
He had 94 attempts.
94 attempts. Wow. Like,
94.
so you know for a fact that Ben Johnson's coming in, we're going to run the football. Right? No, don't get it twisted. They don't have Sonic and Knuckles, and I get that. But you do have DeAndre Swift. You do have Roshan Johnson. You drafted Kyle Monangai in the 6th round, who, yeah, he may not be the home run hitter, but he could be a very good between the tackles runner for this team. You know what I mean? So, like, you can run the football, and I expect Ben Johnson to do so. 214 dropbacks for Jared Goff, where Caleb Williams gets 94 attempts. Come on, man. Come on.
And plus, Ben Johnson knows DeAndre Swift. He knows his talent. He knows his skill set. He coached him. This is not new to him. So they're going to have a much better structure of the offense. And yes, Caleb Williams can have some bad habits formed from last year. That's why we talk about, we give him praise for the pocket magician stuff that he does, but getting out of the pocket early, he's formed bad decisions because of, sometimes I can do it. Like, yeah, I'm great. Like the pocket discipline. When you have a pocket for the few times that he did have, and you're leaving it early, it's not necessarily all his fault, but sometimes you saw that at USC too, where he's like, you know what, I can go ahead and make something happen. I'm going to create a window by moving out to the right, even though the pocket is there. In the NFL, you cannot do that. You can't. You're creating fewer opportunities for yourself, especially because we all know that when you're rolling out from left to right or right to left, what happens to the field? It essentially gets cut in half. I don't care how good your arm talent is. A lot of times you're throwing from left to the right side of the field when you're moving. Guess who's going to come down? Oh, that safety. Yes, don't worry. I got you. That ball's mine. So the talent is there. Football IQ is going to come with reps in the NFL. It takes time. And so when we talked about how Jared Goff needs structure at age 29, 30, it's because that's what he can do. Young quarterbacks need it to then get to the everything else they can access. Once you can throw the ball on time with anticipation, not just on outbreakers, but over the middle of the field into windows between this linebacker, that safety coming down, when it's on time, when it's consistent, then we can start, okay, you want to be a little creative? Let's get outside the pocket. Let's move some things around. Sure, we can start doing that. When you can play on time, it makes everything else go through, and especially because you're trying to kind of get rid of those bad habits, those bad decisions that you make as a young quarterback trying to carry an offense that is doing no favors for you. So I'm not going to spend too long harping on the talent because we all know the talent's there for Caleb Williams. It's all about the next, I don't even think it's just this year. It's the next 2 seasons for Caleb Williams, getting rid of some of those bad habits, developing with what is one of the best, I would say, weapons room in the NFL. I know that people hyperbolized about that last year, but it is this year. They have all the different tools to be able to make this a successful offense for Caleb Williams. So now it's about accessing it.
Yeah, and I think the one thing I want to see him do, especially with DeAndre Swift, check that ball down, man. Check it down.
Yeah.
Quick, like I always like put it into context, like every snap and passing snap for a quarterback is a multiple choice question, right? And if the question is 2 + 2 =, if your first read is A and the answer is 8, he's not open, okay, you should immediately come off that read. If your second option in the progression is B and the answer is 1, he's not open either, come off of that. If your third option is C and it says 4, hit it. Like, come off of it. I always talk about how when I scouted Tua Tagovailoa come out of Alabama, I called him the sprinkler, the human sprinkler, because his hips in the pocket prior to that injury, Tua would get to the top of his drop. He would look left and just tick, 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 throw. And it was just like the same way you hear a sprinkler. Tick, 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 tick. It was the same thing with Tua. And that's what I want to see from quarterback is quickly diagnose this door is closed. This guy's covered. Oh, my guy opened the middle of the field. Hit it. You don't want to be late to it, but you want to get there quickly, right? So I think that's going to be the big thing for me with Caleb in this offense. And let's close this thing out, though. Let's transition and let's close this thing out with J. McCarthy. We talked about him a little bit. I believe it was last week on whether or not he can, kind of like the preseason not preseason, the training camp preview of what Vikings fans should be looking forward to with him. And so far, I saw some good clips of him throwing the ball in practice. I thought he anticipated a window in the back of the end zone against, I believe it was man coverage to Jordan Addison in the red zone the other day and everything. So like the arm, like you'd like to see that type of stuff. And this is a guy that played one preseason game, and then he was done for the year. And that was probably this quarterback class in 2024's quarterback class might go down as one that we have to revisit 10 years from now and be like, man, what a class, right? We went six deep in the top 12, right? And J.J. McCarthy was one of them. And, of course, it never happens where every single quarterback hits. But, man, we might get 4 out of the 6 that hit, 5 out of the 6 that hit, and be like, this might be one of the best classes we've ever scouted, like we've ever seen come in the league. JJ was one of the guys I was most excited for because I was a big proponent. And Dan, because you're a Michigan fan, I would always say, Jim, let my guy cook, man. Listen, I play running back in high school. This is my favorite position. I love being physical, punching you in the mouth, taking your soul. Like, I love just forcing you against your will in the run game and all of that. But I was sitting there in Michigan like, let my boy JJ rock, man. Let him throw the ball, Jim. Let him cook. Your offense going to be unstoppable if he gets that confidence. That was in the first year. Second year, they won the national championship game because he did let him throw the ball a little bit more and everything. Mm-hmm. But coming off, like when we scout him, Dan, we're scouting him more so as what we saw him as a prospect. Raw arm talent. This guy can rip throws. The mechanics, upper body mechanics are good. Like even shouldered, front side closed. I think his lower body mechanics are typically good as well in terms of stepping in the direction of his target being, as JT O'Sullivan, shout out to QB school, he calls it dovetailing, being able to dovetail, line yourself up with your target. It's those type of things. The thing, his ball placement was good, but this was my thing that I loved about him at Michigan. Third down effectiveness. When it was third downs, Dan, he rose to the occasion. You know what I mean? He rose to the occasion like the Undertaker getting out the casket. Like, he's like, I'm not dead. Like, we're here. And it's his ability to, it's 3rd and 10, doesn't matter. He was just stone cold in those moments. And I'm like, for a guy that doesn't throw the ball a lot, like, this is impressive. Because you expect Jaden Daniels, who's played a lot of college football, Cam Moore, who's played a lot of college football. You expect those guys to be able to handle those. They've seen hundreds of them, thousands of them. But when you're not throwing a lot on those third downs, to watch how effective and how good he was executing third downs, converting them, keeping the offense on the field and keeping them on schedule, man, I think that's going to translate well to this Kevin O'Connell offense. And with his ball placement and everything else, this is a guy that we're going to really be keying in on this year to see, what's that development look like in real time?
Yeah, and we saw obviously a little bit of it with Sam Darnold, where the training wheels will be there. I think J.J. McCarthy needs them just as much as every young quarterback does. But when you watched him play in big moments, even going back to the TCU game, he was asked to do more than he's ever had to do in his NFL career. His first ever college football playoff appearance, the first time he was asked to throw the football a ton, he threw 2 picks, never phased him. Never phased him. Not once. He has the mentality of a quarterback that does like a corner. We talk about how corners you're going to get beat. How are you going to come back from that? You have to have the memory, like they say in Ted Lasso, have memory of a goldfish. We got to have that. It's got to be small. You're going to make mistakes. In the NFL, everyone makes mistakes. No one plays perfectly. So the fact that he was able to come into that game, challenge windows, throw interceptions, and still give that team an opportunity to win multiple times coming back from those. Obviously, the defense didn't play well that day. But again,
just
they came back.
1 or 2 tackles on Quentin Johnston, you win that game. 1 or 2 tackles on Quentin Johnston, you win that game.
That's it. Yeah. So again, like that's the mentality of a quarterback you want. And that's quite obviously why the Vikings wanted him, not just because he's a very good athlete. Again, good arm strength, ball placement, all that stuff that Kevin O'Connell wants, but you have to have that mentality. So JJ McCarthy has showcased that. He's been the consummate professional from Michigan all the way through. And I will say to the Jim Harbaugh point, he's great for the already developed quarterback. So he,
Yes.
like the NFL, that's why you see when he does well with an Alex Smith. Well, Alex Smith's been doing this a long time. So guess what? He can come in and give you everything you need to succeed. Justin Herbert, he's a very good NFL quarterback. So he comes in, look at this, everything looks good. With guys that need development still, it's not a great place for him to be. So JJ
Yeah.
McCarthy, I think again he got better on his own. He didn't get better because of Jim Harbaugh. I'll be the first to tell you right now. I don't believe he got better because of Jim Harbaugh. There were too many factors in the way to prevent him from getting better, to
Yeah.
actually succeeding and being the reason they won that tractor versus the trailer, right? So he's going to be in the position now to be able to do that. And again, we talked a little bit more about his things that he needs to work on back in when we were talking about the young quarterbacks and the training camp stuff. But this is that year, right? That we got to see just understanding, right? The throws. Like last night, we were watching Trey Lance. What was one of the
Mhm.
huge problems with Trey Lance coming out, and the reason he
Whew.
kept getting interception? He would just throw the ball as hard as he could at every
Boy,
single person.
he never
JJ
saw a fastball he didn't like, boy.
he was that closer that comes in and legit has one pitch, and if you can hit it, guess what? You'll find some
Home
success.
run.
Yeah, you'll be getting you'll be swinging at a like a rusty gate. But when you saw him throw with touch last night,
Yeah,
he
yeah.
threw some really nice passes, and that first touchdown pass, the one down the right hand sideline to Keandre Lambert Smith, who
Yeah,
is
yeah.
looking really good by the way for the
Yep.
Chargers. This is where you're going to see that growth. Is he taking to the coaching? Is the system working for him? Obviously, with the weapons around him, I think that's going to be a great thing for him too. But how is he developing? How is that first year injury going to hamper him? This first year coming back, how is the leg going to go? How's his mobility going to be? So you want to pay attention to all those things. But I think just those little things he had to work on coming out. If he starts to throw with a little bit more anticipation over the middle of the field, a little bit more touch, just finding different ways to create maybe arm angles in the pocket, things like that. We're going to have a lot to say about JJ McCarthy after the first year.
Absolutely. I think that's the, you know, to that point or to your point, like similar to Trey Lance, like the four seam, like heat seeking fastball, like
Aroldis
you need that
Chapman, man.
slider, man. You need that slider, man. You need that because of the fact of if you can't change it up, if you can't throw something else in there, the defense knows, okay, it's coming out hot every time. Just we got to be there to jump it. We got to be there
It's
to
that
beat.
12-6 curve, man. It's that
That's
12-6
like
curve. You got to have a little bit of, got to be able to do
you
it.
gotta be able to put some air on it. And I think once he starts to layer those passes, that's when you become very difficult to defend. When you can start
Yep.
layering because again, we always talk about arm strength. Arm strength is just raw. The wrong arm strength to be able to throw it 100 mile per hour, but it's the arm talent of when you know what? I got Barry Bonds at bat. Nah, I'm giving you a curve. Yep, I'm not.
You're not
We're
getting
not
that
doing that.
meatball, buddy.
Nah, you're not getting this four seam. Here's that curve. You know what I mean? And you're trying to, and you get to angle it to where it's like the back corner of the left side of the plate, like different things. Like you get to angle the ball, like you have control. That's what you want to see from big arm quarterbacks. Learn that control. We see it with Josh Allen, right? You know, the fact of his ability to move around anywhere on the field, shoulder square. Now he could just flick. He knows I got so much strength in this right arm. If I
Yeah.
just flick the wrist, I could still get it to where I wanted to go, but I control it better than me just ripping full torque, full turn of the hips and just driving it. Like, no, I don't need to drive it. I just need to float it and get it there. And he does
And
he
that's
does
the
a great
key to
job of
those
that.
downfield, outside the numbers throws too. You can't throw it as hard as you want to. It's just going to keep sailing, and that's one of the reasons he struggled throwing the deep ball in college.
You got to anticipate it, right? So like those outbreakers, things like that. Know your receivers break, know his telltales, and when you see him get, when he's getting ready to break before the DB. Hopefully before the DB, he's not tipping his hand to
Right.
the DB, but you're able to get that ball out to the sideline, and by the time he turns he breaks out the top of his route, that ball is coming right to his face, man. So say less, boom, 2 feet in, first down. You know what I mean? So I think that's going to be the big thing, but. Dan, we've talked about all four quarterbacks in this division. Let's go ahead and rank these guys how we see them right now. And I think we've been kind of on the same page for the most part. Go figure. Great minds think alike. I have Jared Goff at number 1. I have Jordan Love at number 2. Caleb Williams at number 3, and of course J.J. McCarthy at number 4.
Yeah, it's funny. We actually watch the quarterbacks first, then give our rankings after. So we
Mm-hmm.
don't. I thought for this one, I thought he was going to have Jordan Love number 1, and I was going to have Jared
I
Goff
was
number 2.
tempted.
Turns out, I know you were. We both were. That's why I have Jared as my 1A, if you will, and then Jordan Love is the 1B because I think this is the year he gets all that consistency right. He's going to be the best quarterback in the division. But again, that just because of what we talked about, he still is that tier down of Jared Goff for me, and then it is Caleb Williams and JJ McCarthy. Granted, this could look quite different.
Yeah.
I think with 1 year, there's a lot of talent between two all the way to 4, and we could see a lot happening. So I'm very excited to watch these quarterbacks this year.
100%, man. But guys, that is our show ranking the quarterbacks for the NFC North. Who will be the king of the North after the 2025 regular season heading into the playoffs? We'll find out this year. Time will tell. But guys, thank you so much. Hopefully we earned your like, your subscription. Hopefully drop a comment. Drop your top 4 quarterbacks for the NFC North as well. Is Jared Goff your 1? Do you have Caleb if you're a Bears fan and you're a little biased? It's fine. This is a safe space for you. Things like that. Same thing with Packer fans. JJ McCarthy fans, don't even try it. We're not gonna let that slide. You know what I mean? But nonetheless, guys, drop your top 4. Drop your rankings of these 4 quarterbacks. Like I said, go ahead, like, comment, subscribe, hit the bell notification. If you're listening on the audio side, please leave a 5-star comment and review. Show your boys some love and continue to support this podcast. The support is free. And we're about to hit mid-season form, guys, because football is here. Football is back. And on the next episode, we're recording again on Monday. We're going to talk about the training camp, react to some stuff, some buy or sell, some of the training camp hype. We'll also kind of get ready for officially week 1 of the NFL preseason. Talk about all of that. So, guys, listen, thank you so much as always for shouting out and paying attention to us here on the NFL Scouting Podcast with Dame and Dan. I'm Dame, and that's Dan.